Hey, alright, it's Pritzter here on the Pritzter95 YouTube channel. Devil Daggers Infinite Repeat. How you feeling out there? How's your drive time commute? I need a saga. What's the saga? It's magic bullets. You can't even see it. Alright. What's up? Thought I'd talk you through how I made magic bullets. A little. Hopefully it'll inspire a couple of you to go mod Devil Daggers yourselves. I just want more people to mod the game because it'd be pretty neat if we got more mods for Devil Daggers, to be honest. I tried doing this kind of loosely without notes or anything. It did not go well, so I've just decided, fuck it, we're doing a PowerPoint, man. We're doing a fucking Microsoft PowerPoint of this thing. It's the best way to structure this damn thing. So yeah, we should get to it. Generally, my process in making mods runs through the V3 spawn set, so that I can see the whole thing naturally evolve, within the context under which most will experience it. You know, I expect the average user of this mod to just be playing V3, so that's how I make my mods, is to just start from the top and go through. So basically I began with this idea to make a more usable mod, right? One that doesn't push the original visual style too much, because my previous mods it sort of destroyed the way you read the game, making it really impossible to perform well. Like Hell is Cold, Hell Tastes Nasty, like they're cool to look at, but you can't really use them much, you know. You go for a couple of runs and then it's like, I've got to go back to the original because you can't really play well with them. I don't know if I've fully succeeded with this on this one, but I am generally quite happy with how this one turned out. There are a couple other ideas that kind of went into this too. The other major idea behind Magic Bullets was importing other 3D objects in and getting them to render properly. So I was eating a blue cornetto when I was struck by a brainwave, right? You might remember the rat skull from Egg-Leggers. I mean, I didn't make that, and it certainly wasn't in Devil Daggers already. That skull was from a King Gizzard album cover, and there was a little FPS they had on their website to promote the new album, which had the rat skull shrine in the center of the map. That game was it's like a little retro FPS, a bit like Devil Daggers really. For someone data mined that game, they put the 3D object up for download of the rat skull, and yeah, I thought, alright, I'll keep that in case one day I mod Devil Daggers. And I made it a point to include it whenever I'd be able to. So the first thing I put in Egg-Leggers was this rat skull, and somehow it worked. And then like straight after I tried the Glock as a hand, it didn't work, you know. I tried Gummy Bears as gems, it didn't render properly, and I sort of gave up on doing more objects for Eggers. But in my brainwave, I realised, well, potentially the rat skull object worked because it wasn't of the OBJ format, which is the format under which all the objects in Devil Daggers are. So I went back to the Glock, I tried to export it under a different format, and then import it again to export back as an OBJ. So I just flipped the formats of the object, and it worked. It rendered completely fine. This didn't work 100% of the time for all the future models I would try, but it was enough to get me starting to make a new mod. So I got this Glock in, I got these bullets in, and I was like, fuck it, let's go, man. Let's do this thing. So the first thing I got in were weapons and bullets for the hands and daggers. I had trouble getting any Uzi model to work for hand 3. I used like 3 different Uzi models and none of them rendered properly. So I just came back to that later and just modified hand 1 into an Uzi, the Glock model I was using. For hand 4, I just came across a shotgun model that was like really good. This little steampunky shotgun. All the texture data was neatly unwrapped, so like it was quite simple, it was quite straightforward, quite easy to just put that in there, make a texture, bam, it worked, easy. When you get models like that, you know, it's great. It's great. Not all models are like that, from what I can tell. Not all these free models are, you know, obviously I didn't pay for any models, I just got free download models. And not all of them have this texture data. You know, all this neat unwrapping here. I don't know if you can see the mouse. I hope my mouse is being captured. You know, for the Glock and for the shotgun, you know, it's quite straightforward. It's quite easy to use them. Ah, shit. Fuck. For the left-handed variants, I just rotated and moved the weapons. For hand 4 shotgun, I made it upside down for left hand. I think it looks better upside down because you get a better illusion of depth. You know what I'm saying? So you get this. You probably for right hand, it's upright. You just see these two barrels, right? You just see the double barrels. For left hand, it's upside down. You see this and you see that, and you get like a kind of laid perspective there. It looks cooler when you sway the weapon on left hand, I think. Yeah, bullet texture is pretty simple. Just stuck to the game's established colour scheme, really. Oh, and for hand 3, I specifically wanted to go for a more abstract approach here. I wanted it to look like an alchemical manifestation of a weapon, pretty much. I think it looks cool. I did this later, but I'll explain it now, since we're looking at the guns. When I came back to hand 3 with all these broken Uzi models, I just was like, fuck it, I'm just going to use the Glock model and edit it. So I just extruded a couple of these faces to make an extended barrel, clip, and a stock, so it kind of looked like an Uzi. Initially the extruded faces didn't render properly at all, but I had the idea to subdivide the vertices and give the faces an extra vertex in the middle, as you can see here. And that worked. They completely rendered fine in the game once I did that. Without this extra subdivision in the middle, these faces wouldn't render properly at all. But once I added them, they did, so I don't know. Maybe I only needed to connect them diagonally like that, shit. I don't know actually. But this worked. I was feeling very ancient Greek aesthetic inspired, having played Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Hades recently. So slapping wings on skulls for angel knives made me think it was looking a little Hermes, which led to me adding Greek helmets. And having drawn Greek helmets on the skulls for angel knives, I thought, well, why not try slapping them on in-game? But every Greek helmet object I tried, I couldn't get to render properly. So I just cut down my search to the term helmet. The bicycle helmet stood out to me immediately as something that was pretty funny. And much like the shotgun, the bike helmet model was pretty cool. It came with its own texture as well, and I just modified that to add colour. The final version of 3, I don't know what the fuck happened. It's glitched out. Like, this is what I expected it to look like in Blender. Here it is. But in the game, it's like the helmet's melded to his fucking face. It's really gnarly shit. I kind of like how it looks, but I don't know what the hell happened there. So after slapping skulls and helmets, it was time to do the squids. I wanted to use the dead space marker for squid 1, but I couldn't get that to work. So I just settled for cutting the top of the crest off and slapping a helmet on that skull there. The idea for transmuted squids, I think, was like a year ago. Noah once said they'd look cool. Shout out to Noah. So I applied that to squid 2s. I didn't want to do it on squid 1s, because that would be overdoing it, I think. I think it looks cool on the 2s. This shit's cool. But yeah, apparently, somehow, cutting the top of this crest off broke the textures here, so I had to manually realign it. I didn't do a perfect job. I didn't like spend too much time on that. So there are some glitches in the textures you'll see if you do play Magic Bullets for yourself. Okay, speaking of broken textures, we have this bad boy, the T-Rex skull for spiderbody. So I spent like an hour manually unwrapping the faces onto this texture map here. So if a 3D object doesn't have unwrapped faces already, you can select the whole thing in Blender and automatically unwrap, but it will just dump all the vertices into like one big ass fucking lump in the corner, right? So what you can do, and what I did for this, is I selected groups of faces and unwrapped them like one at a time, not completely individually. You know, in groups, I unwrap them and position them manually on the texture map. And I had something working, I had something going here in Blender. But then as soon as I put it in game, yeah, it just comes out all fucked up. I don't know why. Like, this looked completely fine in Blender, right? Put it in the game, the textures are all fucked up. The model's rendering completely, like, fine, I think. I think there's like one polygon here that's missing. But the textures are all fucked up, so I just left the textures for Spider 1 alone in the end. It's just like, whatever, fuck it. Like, I'm not spending more time trying to get this shit to work. One cool thing that the broken spiderbody textures do is they give it like this little subtle gold glistening effect. I don't know where the fuck that came from, because I didn't add any gold textures to the final version, but you get like a nice little glisten. So I was playing early game with this new mod, and I've seen a bunch of green and brown tones alongside these bullets, which are added to the squid teeth. And I was getting a bit of a military vibe. Like, this whole thing was beginning to communicate a subtle commentary on how mass conflict is cyclical. Or maybe it was speaking to a war is hell narrative. So I then proceeded to shit on these military tones by turning all the gems into gummy bears. Which is an idea from the original 2 egg-dimensional egg-leggers. Next up was pede. So for this, I realised I hadn't used the owl wing object yet, the one in Devil Daggers, and I thought, well, pedes float, so I guess it would make sense to give him wings. The skull with a single skull 3 horn on it was just an idea that immediately seemed like it would look cool, and yeah, I think it does. You get a bit of an ancient ship vibe from it, which is in line with all that ancient Greek shit I was feeling inspired by. For the textures here, I kept the dimensions square, so that made orienting the texture unwrapping a lot easier. I originally tried to throw the textures like above the original pede body texture, but it warped the dimensions of the faces too much, so this thing was all fucked up and it was trying to go up here if I tried to put shit above it. You know, if I tried to make it a column. But keeping the dimensions square, it just meant this thing was it was just scaled up, so all I had to do was scale it down and place it where it needed to go. So if you're going to add shit to an existing model, I would advise you to just keep the dimensions square for the textures. So all you need to do is resize and move the vertices to line up with your new textures. I had to draw something new for the wings, because there's no existing texture for Devil Dagger's owl wing object. The square shit is what I did for the helmet textures for the skulls, and for Skull 4, as you will see in a moment. I hope that makes sense, by the way. Whatever. Okay, Skull 4, I mean, it was just asking for a set of wheels, really. And I slapped them on Squid 3 as well. I thought it would ruin Levi if I put them on Levi, so I didn't bother with that. And they're not on the actual horns of Squid 3, but I think I could have put them there, actually. I think because the horns on Squid 3, you have to do it 3 times, because it's like a full model of 3 of these guys, so I didn't bother putting the wheels 3 times on there. I put the wheels inside the crest, which I think looks funny, but yeah, whatever. This is pretty straightforward, this is pretty simple. Not much to it. For the Gigas, I went for the classic blue and gold colour scheme. From ancient Greece, of course. I gave the body and the tail the hand-drawn treatment, but I opted for hand-applied colour filters on the head and legs, so there's not much like drawing. There's not much drawing on these are more just filtered colours. I like boosting the vibrance a little for the Gigapedes. You may have noticed that in 2DDD, that the Gigas are a little more blue than they are in the real game. I don't think they're blue at all, actually, in the actual game. I just think they deserve to make a bolder statement with their appearance, really. The original textures have a small hint of purple, but they don't really show up in game, because they're sort of hidden in the little crevices. And for Gigaspider, since my T-Rex skull was giving me grief. I just doodled. I just doodled all over it. I was like, fuck this. The rest of Spider 2, I just put colour filters on there. I think Spider 2 looks alright. It looks alright. Levi was just a continuation of the ongoing colour scheme. So I hand drew on all the gold, and I gave the greys and blacks a purple tint. And I would say it looks positively royal. Throwing the hands in place of the gems was just an idea to give it a bit of an ominous, creepy vibe. Because I wanted to change the gems on Levi, but I thought gummy bears wouldn't really fit. So I just had an idea to put hands in there. It looks cool, right? Orb. I sort of fucked up here. See, as you can see with Orb, there's the complete intact Orb model. And then when you kill it, it splits into the little giblet parts. For that shattering effect. Originally I wanted a pyramid, but that didn't work out. That was just all a rendering nightmare. But I saw potential in replacing this sphere for the gem model that the game already has. When it came to splitting the model up, I just bisected the whole thing up. But every time I created a new segment, I would delete the rest of the model and export it, because you have to export each giblet separately, right? Yeah, I got about 4 of them done, and then Control Z, I was holding Control Z and it wouldn't go back, and I realised my undo history had gone way too far. So I resorted to just randomly bisecting it all up and hoping for the best, really. And I should have saved a separate project file rather than relying on undo like an absolute. But in the end, you get a messy little shattered gem, which looks alright, but it doesn't work as cleanly as the original. So the moral of the story here is save your project files, man. Do not just rely on undo. And for the transmuted skulls, it's a nice mix of hand-drawn edits, colour filters. All my previous mods exclusively dealt with textures in one program, either Blender or Paint Tool SI, which is what I used to draw. But this one I wanted there to be a mix of both programs. I think I spent way more time drawing inside than painting on models in Blender anyway, because I think the finer details are easier to achieve in drawing software rather than in Blender. I think Blender lacks the delicate handling with its brush tools, as far as I can tell. Ghost's texture edits were pretty simple. I added a couple of horns here on the crown. I didn't want to slap the horns directly onto the head of the pede, because the game reuses pede heads across all 3 pedes. So I just put the horns on as part of the crown. I used the mirror modifier, I think, in Blender. And again, I kept square texture sizes, as you can see, so it was easier to map everything. The Thorn was a pretty simple colour edit too. Once you've gone through and finished modifying Thorn, you have a Devil Daggers mod in a pretty complete form, like Thorn being the true final boss of Devil Daggers. What's left is all the extra touches like the UI overlay textures, LUTs, splash screen graphics, you know, that sort of shit. Pyrite was my main inspiration for the UI textures. I made Levi's warp overlays match the gold in the colour scheme, and I don't know how the beacon ring works. It just remained red, but I think all that shit's in the shader code, which I didn't bother touching for this mod. It's pretty incomprehensible to me. Writing on the Sorth stone, totally a tradition now. That's something I do for all the mods now. And actual statues for the statues in the game just made sense, right? I used the decimate modifier in Blender to reduce their face count, which, yeah, 'cause originally these were very detailed. Apart from the thinker, I deliberately downloaded a low poly thinker. We have Marcus Aurelius here, and this is just some dude. I think that's some warrior dude, unnamed warrior. Yeah, I just reduced their face count. I didn't bother messing with their textures too much. I unwrapped Thinker a little bit. That was rendering weird. I don't know why. Out of all of these, I would have expected this one to be most straightforward, but I think it was the most complicated, actually. Somehow, Devil Daggers is weird, man. I don't understand the rendering, clearly. I don't understand 3D rendering. And I made the death LUT the little yellow to further reflect the gold. And then you have the menu. Obviously, I spent time making the splash menu. You know, where this magic bullets thing is. This didn't take long, but positioning the guns and the bullet, that took some time to make it look good. Yeah, that's it completely visually. After all these visual edits, all that's left is the audio modding. I mean, I could give you a little peek at some of the sources I used, but I don't know, we're at 22 minutes now. So I do think audio is self-explanatory, to be fair. If you want to know where my audio came from, just ask me in the comments, I guess. I could just write out where shit came from in a comment. I don't think it's worth it. It's very self-explanatory. There's not much to the audio. My one piece of advice for audio would be, if you have a looping idle sound or whatever, just make sure it loops well. Just make sure it loops well. Use shift space in Audacity to get it to loop playback, and mess around with it until it loops well, I guess. That's the main thing you gotta look out for. Other than that, it's just balancing volume, right? Well, I hope this was cool to at least some of you. Happy modding. Oh, one more thing. Shout out to T-Stab. He posted the trailer, the teaser. He posted the teaser, right, on the Devil Daggers subreddit, and it kind of low-key blew up. I would never have thought to put anything on the Devil Daggers subreddit. I just assume no one looks at it, but this thing got a shit ton of views from Reddit, apparently. So shout out to T-Stab for posting it there. I would never have done that myself. I don't even have a Reddit account. So yeah, thanks. Hope you enjoyed this little look into magic bullets and how I made it. Thank you, and good night.